Ruskin says that there is one thing in which all great and good art agree. It is all delicate art. We have the temptation to bang and be dramatic like Beethoven. But Beethoven is all delicate. Hit it hard if you want to, but be delicate. All art is delicate. So, Michelangelo is delicate. Leonardo da Vinci, unbelievably delicate. Vermeer to Degas to all the great artists are very delicate. So, what we are looking for is subtlety, if I can spell it right, subtlety and delicacy. These goals can be achieved in different ways. They can be achieved in line work, they can be achieved in shading, they can be achieved in color. I'm looking for subtlety and delicacy in every single way. So I'm going to underline this, the heading. That line is drawn. It's a rough line, but it's drawn with a maximum of precision that I can muster. Now, shading is what I want to look at today, because undelicate shading is really, really ugly. It's not a nice word, but if you hack at a page like that, if you hold it, like you're drawing with your elbow, that's really not nice. What we are looking for is something very, very, very subtle. So there are two ways of shading. And the idea with shading is to create a shade, a delicate shade. So first I'm going to try and make a delicate shade, a light shade with pen, simply because it's more difficult. Okay, this is called diagonal shading. Diagonal shading. And this one, where we try to show the roundness of objects, like that. You see what I'm getting at? This is supposed to be a ball. When we do this kind of shading, it's called cross-hatching. Cross-hatching. Okay. So, and that can be like that and can be like that and so. So these two have been at each other's throats for centuries and centuries and centuries. Essentially, that we know of from the Renaissance. It might have been even before that, because we don't have that many examples of art from before the Renaissance. But, so these are the two main fights. This one versus that one. But as in most things, the perfect answer lies in compromise or union. There's the diagonal shading. I'm doing it with a pen because shading with a pen is much more difficult than shading with charcoal or pencil. See, if you shade with charcoal, that's another messy thing. You can make horrible movements, and then you can just, afterwards, you can just go over it and rub it with your fingers, and it'll make perfectly delicate and subtle tones. But here's a diagonal shading. Now, diagonal shading like that, now, let's do it again. Diagonal shading again. See what's happening here is I'm getting a kind of a hatching. Not cross-hatching, but a shift of direction. Now again here, I'm going to do this slightly further apart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this is also hatching, but it's a different kind of hatching, and this is the kind of hatching that I like to do, and that Rembrandt liked to do, and that Ruskin again referred to as chopped straw. You imagine on the floor of a stable, you got the straw falling down like that. And then somebody else walks past with some more straw and some more bits of straw fall down like that. Like that. And there I can try and link these up together and make some more dark shades here. So in this technique, you can get very, very, very subtle shading things. This is Ruskin's idea of straw, chopped straw. Very natural, something that comes from nature. And you don't always have to have the full length of lines. You can have short little dabs, also very beautiful. You can even have dots if you want to reach extremely light tonalities. So these are the main ways of doing your shading. Now when we move to charcoal or to a pencil, there are a few variations again. The ways that we can hold our pencil. The first one is we can hold the pencil like this. You see? Work with a pen, like a pen point like that. So I'll do it like that. 2, 3, 4, pencil. And if it were ballet, it would be a dancer working on point. See, like that. A ballerina on point. And the pencil point will be pointing towards the paper as I'm doing now. It doesn't mean that the pencil has to be vertical like that, but you must get the point into operation. Then the second one is where the dancer goes into demi-point. So the toe bends, the heel remains the same more or less, there, and sure. And here you got a softer movement, a softer touch. And this would be where you use your charcoal or your pencil slightly on its side, on demi-point, the demi-point of the charcoal or of the pencil. And then you've got where the dancer puts her foot flat onto the floor, like that, and so on. So this would be broader than that. Now it's going to be hard for me to do it with this pencil. I'm just going to see if I can find something. Make it very, very, very broad. There. That is the flat. Now in order to do this, I'm having to go to and fro, but that's the flat. So point, demi-point, point, and flat, flat. Of the three, the most useful one is demi-point, used for 90% of good quality shading. When you do that, it's more like etching or like pen and ink drawing. Okay, now we're going to have to look at establishing a shade. And we're only going to do 3 shades. I gave you a scale that I wanted you to do, still do want you to do it, of 10. A scale of 10. Very light, even white, leaving the paper white. That to do a block where you leave the paper white, it's a bit useless. So we'll do the white paper as 0. That's the highlight. The first tone as 1, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And when we get to 10, it's black, pitch black, or as dark as you can go with the medium that you're using. So 1, then we'll go to, because we're working with pencil, and pencil doesn't go black, pencil is a silvery grey medium. So in pencil we can only go up to a certain darkness. And so the darkest that we can go to here would probably be a 7, maybe an 8. But okay, the lightest light that we can get is where the pencil hardly touches the paper. Hardly, hardly, hardly. It hovers. Like, let's say like snow. Snow falling. That would be tone number 1. Then here we can go to tone number 4, which will still be a very light grey, and I can go with the diagonal shading in the demi point there. You see, I go over the lines. That's not untidiness. That is in fact my effort at being as tidy as I can. Okay, this is still very, very light. I'm not going to make this darker now. That would defeat the purpose, because it's a nicely laid tone. Okay. Then you can go into your tone, you fill in all the little holes, like that. This has to be absolutely even, absolutely flat. You fill in all those little gaps, like that, like that, like that. And in the end, what you would like to see is that this area of tone should be like a piece of grey silk. You can rub out the edges where you've gone over the edges a little bit. You can clean it up if you want to. You don't have to clean it up, because that going over the edge does not spoil the edge. The edge is still perfectly visible. Then I'm going to go for something a little bit darker. So like this. Same technique. Sorry. But now I'm going to include, together with this, I'm going to include the zigzag method. Okay. To and from. This is still diagonal shading, obviously, still diagonal shading. I want to fill in the gaps. And I slowly want to darken now. I'm changing the direction slightly, like that. The first direction was there about 60 degrees. Next one will be like that, about 30 degrees. Okay. And again, I'm working for flatness. Once I get to the end of this, I'll go into the little gaps and fill in those gaps. Okay, this would probably be about a number, that's definitely not a 4, that would be a number 2 in tone. This would be a number 4 in tone. And seeing we've got a bit of space left here. Now delicate. You can draw your rectangles, always delicate, all your lines must be drawn delicately and precisely and with subtlety. So you can cross over in the corners as long as you do that delicately. See, there's not a cross over there. Make a cross. And make a cross there. Not a cross there, not a cross there yet. So go back and do it. Make it happen. Right, now this one can be darker than that. I'll make this, I'll try for about a 6 or so. So same thing. First just the one direction, then the other direction, then the first direction again, then the other direction again, then the other direction again. So now I'm actually building it up. There's no difference between this technique and what I'm doing now, but sometimes you have to feel your way towards a tone. So if you're drawing the leaves on a tree, or the foliage on a tree, you'll start from the one side and you'll darken where you need to. and you leave it light. But now in this case, I want everything to be absolutely even. So I did start from the one corner, but there was no need to start from the one corner. Okay, like that, and darken. I'm still working with the demi point. Demi point is nice. And then again, the first direction. There's a nasty little gap there, fill it in. First direction, going over the edges. And the second direction, which was much more vertical, I tilt the pencil a little bit so I get a little bit more of the point. Like that, you see? A little bit more of the point. And I want this, as far as I can, I want this to be 100% perfectly flat. That doesn't mean I want to get rid of all the lines. The lines are beautiful because the lines are our handwriting. So we need those lines to communicate. And then I can use the pencil a little bit more onto its point to strengthen the feeling of the lines, and also, of course, to keep on darkening. Still going over the edges, and still have the option of, if I want to, I don't want to. Here I'm going over the edges a little bit more deliberately. If I want to, I can still clean up the edges with my putty rubber. So that's a number 4. This is a number 6 of tone. So 1, 2, 4, and 6. Now I can come even darker here. And keep working on this. Keep working on that. Don't get impatient. Keep working on your tones until they are 100% flat. The one secret is to try not to push onto the paper. Obviously, in this case, I'm pushing down a little bit compared to the other 3 tones. The idea is to imagine that your paper, your pencil, is just lying on the paper like that, and you're trying to lift the pencils in such a way that it doesn't touch the paper. You're trying to lift it away. But gravity, or a magnetism, is holding your line down onto the paper. So it's a lifting away. The word to draw means to pull. So we pull like that. Okay. So this is now relatively subtle. Now, in the drawing that I asked you guys to do of a light map, then you only do the dark bits. But doing the dark bits doesn't mean making them black. Black is, it's not a non-color. Black is a color. A black cat is a black cat, and so on. But black is, compared to these grays, a little bit less sensitive. So, you know, that one doesn't have the charm that the same thing would have in the same tonality if I go over in a different direction. Chopped straw. Before that it was diagonal. Now I'm making a chopped straw in different directions, even vertical, even nearly horizontal, you see, like that. That's what we're looking for, subtlety, delicacy. Ruskin again, he says, you should draw as if you're trying to draw the down on a butterfly's wing.